Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Squad coming at you with the weekly comic book roundup. We've covered this week's X-Men books. Now it's on to this week's Spider-Man books and Marvel Knights books. These kind of, catch-all for street-level Marvel books that aren't Spider-Man. Kicking things off, we've got Spider-Man 2099 Exodus. It's number 4. Where we left off, Spider-Man and the Avengers of 2099 had managed to stop the stop the Masters of Evil 2099 from taking control of the Celestial Garden for the potentially speaking for the Cabal, with the Masters of Evil being imprisoned off-world. So we begin in Nueva York with Spider-Man meeting with Black Widow. Trying to find someone that could help him deal with the Cabal. Black Widow knows where to find the specific person. The person in question being former member of X Nation 2099, Nostromo. Apparently, Nostromo basically inherited Latveria from Doom. After Doom disappeared and returned Latveria to its people. However, Nostromo is hiding from someone. Apparently, he's hiding from Hawkeye. It's explained that when Doom gave Latveria to Nostromo, his secrets came with it. His secret wars, crises he averted without anyone ever knowing. The Hell Rock, the old Mutoid prison, it was flooded with adamantium and shot into space, with 3 objectives: stop the Mutoids, get a biohazard off-world, and assassinate a Celestial, Jovian, the enactor. Every time the Celestials touch it down on Earth, it's death. Doom was responsible for the whole planet, so he shot Jovian dead. And a bullet like the Hell Rock could only be aimed by Hawkeye. So the deal is that Spider-Man keeps Nostromo alive while Black Widow goes after Hawkeye. Hawkeye 2099 occupies a satellite referred to as the Hawk's Nest. And so he's tracking Nostromo and Spider-Man when Black Widow shows up. And so Hawkeye and the Widow duke it out. Widow takes a few hits. But Hawkeye still manages to fire. However, he misses. And as he's distracted by the whole thing, by missing, Black Widow tosses him out an airlock, and we learn who the Black Widow 2099 is. Yelena Belova. Apparently, Natasha was killed by Hawkeye. Shot 52. And so Nostromo and Spider-Man head to the Ontario Expanse in a repurposed public eye spinner with Ghost Rider 2099 helping to in the computer. When they arrive at the Celestial Garden, however, it turns out Osborn's already sent his people down. All the Sentinels. These Sentinels appear to be, whereas a normal Sentinel would be purple and gray. These appear to be green and gray, and also have a bear a similarity to Iron Man. That is where the issue ends. I gotta say, it's nice. It's nice to actually get to see a Hawkeye 2099, though it is kind of sad to see that he's a bad guy. I like the way they did the whole thing. To be perfectly honest, Hawkeye 2099 feels more like Bullseye of 2099, which, I mean, Bullseye was briefly Hawkeye for a minute, so, you know. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Spider-Punk #3. Where we left off, Spider-Punk and the Spider Band were heading out to take down all of the late former President Norman Osborn's stashes of tech. So we begin outside of Philadelphia. The Spider Band is being attacked by the Marauders. This is versions of Armor, Sunfire, and Akihiro. The Marauders are taken down, but they do manage to damage the Spider Band, leading to the band stopping in Philadelphia, where they come upon Daredevil, the drummer of Philly, aka Matea Murdock, who it turns out is friends with Kamala. Matea, much like Matthew Murdock, is blind and possesses echolocation capabilities. And of course, Wilson Fisk is her nemesis. Fisk was a promoter. Basically, started off by gouging in bars and venues, and has since taken to hoarding and gouging on necessary supplies. So, Spider Band splits up with Cap and Riri staying with the van, while Kamala, Spider-Punk, and Daredevil go after Kingpin, who apparently is holding up in one of Osborn's old fortresses. They fight their way through. Kamala and Hobie Spider-Punk deal with the Marauders, while Daredevil deals with Kingpin, taking him down, and they manage to find the necessary parts to repair the Spider-Man. It works. They invite Daredevil to join them, but Daredevil's got her own stuff to deal with in Philly, and so the Spider-Man had made their way towards Washington D.C. However, their progress is being monitored by Taskmaster and the still alive, somehow, venomized head of Norman Osborn. And that is where the issue ends. I'm really loving this series. It is seriously so much fun. But then again, I mean, the concept of Spider-Punk is pretty awesome as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Daredevil #1. Where we left off, well, we haven't done Daredevil regularly on the roundup for ever, I think. It's timing, But in Devil's Reign, Matt Murdock's twin brother, Mike Murdock, was killed by Wilson Fisk. While attempting to leave the city, Fisk was stopped by Daredevil and Daredevil, Matt and Elektra, and thoroughly defeated, though he managed to escape justice. He told his son Butch to spread the word that he had killed, that Fisk himself had been killed by Butch, basically allowing for Butch to become the new Kingpin. So we open with a man is just making his way through the city. All the while, Daredevil's being asked questions. Questions concerning Elektra, the Punisher. As Mike Murdock, Daredevil goes to Butch, lies through his teeth, saying that it was Matt who was killed, not Mike. But he's going to be away for a while dealing with stuff. Butch explains he's going to try and be a better kingpin than his father was. No more killing. He wants to run the city with fairness and compassion. Matt states that Butch had better. And outs himself to Butch as Daredevil. But it turns out that he's got some help. He's got backup in the form of Spider-Man. And so basically Spidey and Daredevil go on a tour of the city, basically letting people know that, yeah, just because Daredevil's out of town doesn't mean the city doesn't have protectors. During all this, Matt reveals his identity to Spider-Man yet again. And apparently Spider-Man says he'd love to, you should tell Matt who he really is, but his secret identity is still alive. But they continue their tour of the city's underworld, getting in trouble for Hammerhead. We also have a story of a man intending to shoot his boss. And eventually, however, he finally snaps the ass out of a coffee shop and shoots the person who's in line next or behind him. Meanwhile, Daredevil's trying to catch up to Kristen to say goodbye to her, possibly even let her know that Matt Murdock is still alive. The man from the coffee shop sadly died. While the shooter is stopped by Daredevil, his victim dies. Matt makes his way to the train station, but he's too late. When he's met by Robert Goldie, who it turns out knows that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. Explaining that he is Matt's guardian angel. But not hers, as the train Chris is on explodes. During the conversations that Matt's having, he explains that he fears nothing except God. We have a backup story called The Island, focusing on Elektra. She jumps down to an island. Where she meets with Stick, who said, tell her she's late, but she said, as she puts it, that she runs the fist. When she shows up, whatever time it is, she's on time. They talk a bit about who they are, as well as the history of the island they're on. The island is contested. Current claim is contested by both Russia and Japan. Current claim is from Russia, and some Russian soldiers attacked them, though Elektra takes them down non-lethally. However, Stick remedies that so that they can't tell anyone else what's happened. Stick claiming she's become weak. Basically, Matt rubbing off on her, saying probably because they keep rubbing against each other. This leads to Elektra and Stick having a brief fight. Elektra wins, but she is beginning to question whether or not. But she does question whether or not Stick's right about her being weak. And that is where the issue ends. As I understand, this is actually in some ways supposed to be, at least for the moment, running in a more concurrent manner with the current Punisher title, which we'll be getting to momentarily. As the Fist's plan is to take down the Hand, so of which the Punisher is the High Slayer of now. Moving on, however, to our next book, we've got Moon Knight number 13. Where we left off, Zodiac had attacked the Midnight Mission. During his assault, Soldier put on the Mr. Knight's suit, claimed to be Mr. Knight, only to be shot by Zodiac. After Zodiac had shot, Zodiac shot Reese, who had jumped in the way of the bullet to protect Soldier. However, the caliber of the round, it went right through Reese and it hit Soldier. Tigra, Hunter's Moon, Moon Knight, Reese, and a slew of Ghost Moon Knights dealt with Zodiac. And while when Reese was about to make a meal out of one of them, Moon Knight stopped her as Stephen Grant. We begin with Taskmaster being asked about someone. Meanwhile, Moon Knight is torturing, is using his own means of interrogation on the new vampire population of New York. But the short answer for being told about Moon Knight by Taskmaster is don't. Taskmaster explains to Tudor, who's apparently the head of the vampire pyramid scheme, Moon Knight's on a different level. The last people who sent Taskmaster after Moon Knight had Moon Knight's full jacket. Marine Corps, CIA, freelance mercenary work. He's at home murdering people in South American jungles and African deserts as he is in New York. What the Marines didn't teach about violence, the CIA did. Then he hooked up with maniacs like Raoul Bushman to really put the finish on his education. He's a blade that's been sharpened by a lot of stones. But that's not why he's dangerous. But Tudor figures Moon Knight's just a man, and Taskmaster explains that, pulls a bullet out and says that's what Moon Knight is. A 45 ACP hollow point, a flying ashtray. Put one of these through a person, it comes out the other end, turned inside out, mushrooms, torn up, twisted from all the soft tissue trauma it's caused. That's Moon Knight. He'll come at you faster than the speed of sound, go right through you, and won't care what it'll do to him. When he comes out the other side, he'll leave a hole in your life big enough to drive the L train through. Taskmaster then adds that he doesn't know what took a man and made him into a bullet, and he doesn't want to know. But apparently Moon Knight has become a problem, killing Tudor's people and attacking their infrastructure, freeing their food stock, and worse. He has Reese with him. He has defectors with him, 4 vampires who should be Tudors. However, now, which wasn't too big of a problem until one of them challenged Tudor's exclusivity. But in therapy, Mr. Knight explains to his therapist that apparently he feels responsible. Basically, explaining he feels responsible for the hurt caused of those in his life because of his life, including his therapist. So his therapist states that yes, she was just recently kidnapped by Zodiac. She says that the business she's in, she's never had any illusions about what that might mean. Helping superheroes. Basically saying that, Soldier made a choice. According to the Daily Bugle, Midnight Man's back in town, as Tiger notices. Old enemy of Moon Knight's, though she thought he was dead. Reese asks who Stephen Grant is, which leads Tiger to basically say that's not her story to tell. And she's quickly asked about, basically, all of a sudden she's not a snitch. It turns out Soldier isn't dead. He's been turned. Hence Tudor's frustration. But Tudor tries to hire Taskmaster for a great deal of money to take out Moon Knight, but Taskmaster's not doing it. Adding that he said, as he puts it, someone wants Taskmaster to go to Spider-Man? Sure. Daredevil? Why not? He's made a career out of taking a poke at Captain America. But Moon Knight crashed a damn helicopter into a building to get at Taskmaster. As Taskmaster leaves, he tells Tudor good luck finding anyone in the city. Who's up to go after Moon Knight. And whoever is either a psycho or a scrub at least, neither of which are worth the money. As Moon Knight's dealing with another crop of vampires, runs into Taskmaster. And Taskmaster explains to him that the guy out there wants Moon Knight dead. A couple nights previously, he offered Taskmaster a pile of money to do it. And Taskmaster wants Moon Knight to know that whatever happens next, it's got nothing to do with him. When Moon Knight asks why Taskmaster's telling him this, Tasky simply says that he's scared as hell of Moon Knight. But call it a courtesy from one professional to another. Moon Knight says that he's nothing like Taskmaster, and Taskmaster says that, Moon Knight's right. He used to be a mercenary, just like Taskmaster. Now he's worse. And so, Tudor's managed to find some outside talent, however. Nemean and Grand Mal, who he's hiring to kill Moon Knight. But Reese comes in to ask if Mr. Knight's okay. Says he's just tired. He's getting closer to her. But she asks who Stephen Grant is, and Moon Knight simply says that he'll tell her soon, not that night. And the issue ends with the Moon Knight pulling together, having a conference of his three personalities: Mark, Stephen, and Jake. And that is where the issue ends. It is nice to see something of the return of Mark's alters. Next issue, it seems like it will be focusing quite a bit on them. Some of Taskmaster fun, especially the nice little nods to Charlie Houston, the beginning of Charlie Houston's run on Moon Knight about a decade or so ago. I'm liking where Jed McKay's run is going. I'm looking forward to it, to seeing everything play out. But moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got Punisher #4. As I stated, Daredevil and Daredevil are now part of the Fist, which is a group formed to take on the Hand, of which the Punisher is the High Slayer. So we open with a flashback to Frank as a 15-year-old kid. A drum set in the corner of his room that he hadn't touched in years, that he never really learned how to play. Nunchucks from when he took karate lessons for a couple of weeks before quitting. Parts scattered about for a motorcycle he never finished building. Empty cage for a snake he could never remember to feed. He spent more time fighting in the halls than sitting in class and during school. No friends, paid no attention to girls, sustained no hobbies. Nothing seemed to hold his interest for long. 15 years old and in need of something he couldn't seem to find. Something to make him believe he was human. That there was a place and a purpose for him in the world. Something he had yet to accept. And he still has memories of setting a guy on fire years previously. In the present, Frank is going through the daily executions. The priestess comes to him, however, with a handful of survivors from a raid on Ares and the Apostles of War. They are offered to Frank in sacrifice, adding that they were the only survivors of the raid. Ares apparently made them kneel before him and pray, and made them pray to him, pray for their lives, pray for war. And the Archpriestess says that for that they must be killed. But Frank's not having it. He's like, he's not going to kill someone because of who they pray to. When the Archpriestess suggests that the group take their own lives, Frank stops her, stating that they need all the men they have. Though the Archpriestess states that they're not men, they're dogs, and well, they'll need dogs too. As Frank leaves the Archpriestess, he says that the ninjas are, the group of ninjas are fine as they are, and that next time he'll be with them. Frank then goes to speak with Maria. She wants to go to the park, but currently the area around the Hand's fortress is the only place that she can go. That night, or the previous night, Frank was attacked by Lady Bullseye and Lord Deathstrike. While the Archpriestess is praying to the beast, Ares appears to her. After surveying the remains of a massive portion of Madripoor that had been laid waste by weapons provided to rival gangs by the Apostles of War. Ares states that Frank Castle was long one of his most faithful disciples, whether Frank knew it or not. He is currently waging a war with himself, going against his nature, the type of war that Ares is about never again to wage. When Ares speaks with the Archpriestess in spectral form, he insults the beast and makes claims that the Archpriestess has somehow managed to implant memories within Frank Castle's mind, manipulate him into becoming the High Slayer of the Hand. He also, like I said, he also insults the beast. The fight with Lord Deathstrike and Lady Bullseye initially goes poorly for Frank. However, Frank manages to manifest some of the beast's abilities and uses said abilities to kill Lord Deathstrike, leading Lady Bullseye to realize that he actually is the High Slayer and the Avatar of the Beast, and she asks forgiveness. Apparently, the Archpriestess, arranged this assault. As Frank and Maria walk through the courtyard at the Hand's base, Maria says she's not comfortable. She misses their children. Misses going to do things as a couple, like maybe go see a hockey game, and at least a flashback to Frank playing hockey in high school and slamming someone into the wall, and then looking on the other side of the wall and seeing Maria for the first time. But the Hand forces are assembled for an assault on Ares' Acropolis. And the Shane Ninja from before have been reborn, reforged to serve as Frank's most loyal disciples. They have now learned the greatest lesson in the way of the Punisher. Turns out the Archpriestess murdered their families while they watched. And they stand before Frank to show that their unwavering strength, that they haven't even cried. They have become true children of the beast. Frank is sickened by this and draws his sword, and the issue ends with him covered in blood returning to Maria, saying that they had to go now. And that is where the issue ends. Things are definitely getting interesting. I'm starting to think that I'm beginning to get the idea that the crusade against the Hand that Daredevil and Elektra are going on, Frank will become an ally of theirs, but we'll have to see. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.